Hey guys, today is going to be more of a concept video where I want to talk about my experiments with Bodyswap and about my plans for the upcoming Gauntlet. The reason there weren't any new videos coming out recently was that I was theorycrafting and playing several characters which used Bodyswap, a spell that most of you probably don't even know exists, because it has like 0.0% pick rate with literally like 10 people on the ladder. I think it's actually strong, and I want to bring this gem to light, as I think this community overall needs more people experimenting with fun and forgotten gems or uniques. Sadly, 2 days after I started, the minion pack meta did as well, and every single piece of gear that had minion life on it was extremely overpriced, so it got hard to try out new stuff. But I still managed to playtest at least 3 different versions of this build archetype to decide which works the best for me. One of them even SSF viable, which I will mention later. And there's still a few more that I will mention in this video, but I didn't test them properly myself. So firstly, what is a Bodyswap? Bodyswap is basically detonate death, but it's a travel skill. You teleport to a corpse and blow it up. If there is no corpse, you teleport to targeted an enemy. The targeting heavily prioritizes corpses over enemies, and it's what makes this spell too clunky for most people. Actually, clunkiness is most probably the reason people don't want to play this spell. So why would anyone play it? The reason is the transfigured version of this spell, Bodyswap of Sacrifice, which lets you explode your minions for up to 50% of their life. With the new companionship support, you might already see why it would be strong. The damage numbers are actually stupidly high for very little investment, and it only gets better the more currency you put into it. If we are talking numbers, you can get minions with millions of HP, which results in your Bodyswap having over 500,000 base fire damage on most setups. And if you want to be really nasty, you can use something like meat-sack specters and literally have several millions of HP to blow up, and that basically one-shots any boss in the game. The minions will die after using Bodyswap, which means you have to somehow sustain them, and that leads me to the next topic. What minions should you use with Bodyswap? In my opinion, there are 3 main different versions for these builds, and those are zombies, specters, and golems. All 3 have their upsides and downsides, and all 3 are using minions with high life. The LDR for these versions is that in my opinion, zombies have the coolest interactions, techs, are the most unexplored of these 3, and they are harder to set up than the other 2 versions. Spectre version has the highest possible numbers, damage-wise, and if you use Dark Marionettes it's also quite comfy, because the minions respawn automatically. And the Golem version is the middle ground. Requires basically no investment to play, has decent numbers, but you have to play Elementalist for the golems to respawn, which could be a downside for some people. Now, let's talk about these in greater detail. First, I wanna talk about the zombies, because they are the most interesting in my opinion. The main issue with zombies is that you have to somehow summon them to blow them up. Of course, you could desecrate and summon them from the corpses, but you would most likely use Alkun as well instead, for several reasons actually. The most obvious reason is that you don't need any corpses to summon zombies. The gloves have a lot of minion life for zombies, which helps as well, and your zombies count as corpses, which is actually insane for some interactions. One of the things you have to figure out with the zombie version is how to summon them consistently, because unlike the other 2 versions, its damage is not gated behind 4-second minion respawn. The faster you can blow up zombies, the better. There was a tech to trigger them effectively in the past, but that's not a thing anymore. And from my testing, it seems like the only viable options are cast on crit setups, cast while channeling, or spellslinger. I have also tried to use Foulborn Kitavas first because of the new volatile Wall Orb to basically automate the process and spawn a zombie every time I cast a Bodyswap. And it works, but you have to quote-unquote reload your zombies from time to time. Some other notable techs for summoning zombies are Arcanist Brand setups or spell totems, but those are in my opinion too clunky to play. If you guys know of a way to trigger zombies more effectively, please let me know, because I will most likely come back to this version and test it more. Now that the spawning is out of the way, let's talk about the fun part, interactions. Since your zombies count as corpses, you might want to use the normal Bodyswap instead of the transfigured version. Why? Because normal Bodyswap counts as you consuming a corpse, while the transfigured version doesn't. I think this has to do with the wording of those gems. Even though your zombies are both minions and corpses at the same time, one of the gems consumes corpses and the other minions. This interaction lets you make great use of, for example, Necromancer's Corpse Pact, Essence Glutton, and Plaguebringer Ascendancy nodes. It also allows you to use the new Greater Devourer support for life, mana recovery, and basically a Soul Eater that's up even on boss fights. Basically, every single passive or mod in the game that interacts with corpses or consuming corpses is available to you on this setup. Just be careful of using offerings, because it will use your zombies as well. You can anoint Hollow Effigy to fix this problem though. One more thing I have to mention as well is that with the addition of Volatile Wow Orb, dual wielding Montregu is now possible. It might not be the best to do with this build, but it will enable some cool zombie builds for sure. Maybe a Baron build. Now, the Spectre version. This one is pretty straightforward. Spectres are quite versatile, but for this kind of build everyone thinks of one thing: Dark Marionette Spectres. Why? Because they respawn automatically, have a lot of life, and also scorch enemies on death for some extra damage. And yes, you get the Dark Marionette explosion on top of Bodyswap of Sacrifice. You can check the interaction later in the video. Overall, this version is probably the best if you are playing softcore trained, as it has the highest damage ceiling, but it's the most expensive version of Bodyswap build I've tried. The other thing most people think of, especially because of the upcoming Gauntlet, is using Meatsack Spectres to one-shot Uber bosses. Meatsacks are one-time use though, so they aren't worth using in my opinion. It's just a cheat for some bosses. And it might get banned as well for the Gauntlet. Hopefully, just the Meatsack one-shot, not a Bodyswap as a gem, because that would totally screw me over and I would probably have to skip this Gauntlet completely. And finally, the Golem version. This is by far the most SSF friendly out of the three, and it's the reason I'm going to use it in the Gauntlet. It doesn't rely on any uniques, you can just get the gem, first lap, and you are good to go. You of course want to use the Stone Golem for Bodyswap because it has the most HP, but I usually swap in at least one Flame Golem or Chaos Golem because it's just extra AoE or damage. You could also use Chaos Golem in the Gauntlet for the Chaos resistance, because it will be quite hard to cap it after at 6. Stone Golem of Hordes also has the same HP as the normal version, so if you can get it, do so. This build is more socket pressured than the others because of golems, and you most likely have to farm golem version of Dark Monarch to make it feel smooth, but it should be fine without it. With golems you also get access to Primordial Bond on clusters, which offers you some great DPS increase, and also Primordial Might Jewel, which in addition to more damage makes your golems aggressive. Now, let's talk about the more generic interactions and items you can use for all of these builds. One of the things that is kind of a meme, but can surprisingly be strong, is the use of Necromantic Aegis Keystone with Maligara Lance Shield in this build. Because this interaction basically allows you to heal to full HP every single time you cast Bodyswap, because of how much life your minions have. Of course, you would give up a shield slot for this, so I wouldn't use this without a way to get block in other means, like Necromancer offerings. Another interesting unique is Rigweld's Hunt. Because we already stuck a lot of minion life, this body armor gets you around 1400 life or more on high budget. I would definitely consider it early on in the Atlas progression, but I don't think it's the best endgame option. Next we have Bronze Life Body Armor, which basically gives you plus 5 gem levels to Bodyswap and up to 100 increased damage, but doesn't offer anything besides that, so I would only consider it in softcore if you need more damage. But in my opinion, Replica Stampede is better for damage anyway. And lastly, we have Replica Siegebreaker, which is probably of no surprise to you because the damage from burning around can be quite high, especially if you blow up a minion with like 2 million life. There are more uniques that are perhaps worth mentioning, but these are the most interesting in my opinion. Let's clarify the minion instability interaction with this spell. It is practically non-existent, it just doesn't work sadly. What does work though is Explosion from Dark Marionette for example, which gives you some extra damage and Scorch after you blow them up with Bodyswap. And I'm sure there are more similar interactions that I'm not aware of. The new overloaded intensity support is actually a good way to get crit on your Bodyswap. And lastly, more of a fun fact than anything else. Your Bodyswap can actually target golden volatile orbs in Mirage. I have no idea what kind of spaghetti code this is, but it's funny and sometimes useful. I hope this video taught you something new, or made you interested in these interactions so you can try them for yourself. If it did, the video fulfilled its purpose. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and you can also join my Discord channel which is in the description. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video, or on stream, which is on this Sunday, 5th of May, right before the PoE2 race which I'm participating in. Bye!